In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up Photoshop to do pixel art. Specifically, I'm going to show you how to make a tile set of your own that you can then bring into Stencil later so that you can craft and create your own environments and decorative elements. So the first thing we need to do is we need to do File, New, and open up a brand new canvas. You need to make sure that your width and height are both set to pixels for units of measurement. If they're not, you will have to start over again. Next, you want to make sure that your resolution is set to 72. And last, you want your background contents, generally you want them set to transparent. If you set it to white, there is a way that you can make it transparent, but it's better to start off with transparent background. Okay, next, and this is the hardest part, you have to figure out how many tiles you want. If you're not sure, you could always go 640 by 480, which is a typical screen size for mobile gaming or for a web game. And this would give you a whole bunch, and then what you could do is you could draw your tiles, and then when you were done, you could then crop it in so that everything fit. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a total of 8 tiles. I'm going to do 4 across on the top row and 4 across on the bottom row. So remember that each tile is 32 by 32 pixels in Stencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Spotlight search by clicking on the little magnifying glass, and I'm going to type in 32 times, and that's the asterisk key, and I'll do 4, which is 128 pixels. I'll then go ahead and type in 128 pixels for the width, and for the height I want 2 rows, so I'm going to do 64 pixels, so that way it's 2 rows sitting on top of each other. I'll tap OK, and I'll go ahead and zoom in with my mouse wheel. Now you'll see that I already have my grid showing up here, which is really handy and showing me where these tiles are. I'm going to show you how to set those up. Let me turn them off first. There we go. Okay, so to set up your grid, you need to come up here to the Photoshop menu in the top left, come down to Preferences, and you're going to choose Guides, Grid, and Slices. From here, you're going to come down here where it says Grid, and you can choose whatever color you want. I typically use black. You're going to choose a grid line every blank pixels, and you want to make sure it is set to pixels. I generally set it up to 32, so that way I can see the tiles. Another thing you can do is subdivisions. Right now, if I leave it at 1 and I hit OK, you'll see what that does in just a moment. So now I need to actually view the grid. So I'm going to come up here to the View menu, Show, and I'm going to choose Grid. So this is one subdivision, so it's basically one line going straight through. Now, something that could be really handy is I'm going to go back up to Photoshop Preferences, Guides, Grid, and Slices, and I'm going to change the subdivisions to 2. And if I do that, now you'll see that I have darker lines to show where 32 pixels are, and I have these little dotted lines showing me basically slicing right through the middle. So this can be really handy because now I can see the center of each one of these tiles. So if I need a center point, because that's an important factor for me, I can go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's pretty much the canvas setup. All I need to do now is set up my brushes and tools. And the tools that I'll be using will be the brush tool, the eraser, and possibly the paint bucket tool. So let's start those off, and then we'll finish up with this one video. So the first one is the brush tool. It's over here on the left-hand side. It's the brush tool. Looks like a little paintbrush, but we don't want the brush tool itself. So here's what the brush tool will look like. If I go ahead and start brushing, you'll see that I get a very soft, which might be nice for painting, but I don't want that. What I want is I want a nice pixelated kind of brush. So I'm going to click on the brush tool, and I'm going to click and hold on it, and it's going to reveal that there's a tool underneath it called pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the pencil tool. And the pencil tool, you'll see, comes out now as nice, hard-edged, no soft edges, and it gets me what I want. Next, I'm going to come up here to the brush picker on the pencil tool. Remember that you can also, on your pens, you can click with the back button. And I'm going to choose a size of 1 pixel. That's really important. And I'm going to make sure that the hardness slider is set to 100%, so I get a really hard edge. I don't get any softness here. Okay, so that's it for the pencil tool. Now I'm going to go ahead, let's draw a little shape here. I'm going to draw a couple little blobs here. Okay, so now that I have these here, let me go ahead and change my colors so you can see. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and erase. So I'm going to choose the eraser tool. And with the eraser tool in its default settings, is you'll see that it's doing kind of a faded little edge, and it works pretty well, but it doesn't work with the same kind of pixel settings that we want. So you want to come up here to the top left, and you're going to see a pop-up menu that says Mode, and you want to change the mode to pencil as well. I'm also going to choose size of 1 pixel and a hardness of 100%, just like the brush. And now basically I can go ahead and erase 1 pixel at a time. Now of course, if you need to erase a big area, you can go ahead and change your brush size to something bigger. Like say now I have 12 pixels, and you can basically just get rid of it really quickly. Okay, the third tool that we need is the paint bucket tool. So here's the paint bucket tool right down here, and by default, let me go ahead and paint bucket in here. By default, if I tap inside this closed shape, you'll see that it filled in quite nicely, and that works out really well. However, there are some settings up here that you're going to want to change. So here are the settings that I had before. So you'll notice that with the default settings, it leaked through, and there's a couple little stray pixels that actually went through the black border here, and I don't want that. So what you want to do is you want to check your settings up here, and you want the following. You want your tolerance set to 1. You want anti-alias turned off. That's what makes the pixels seep through. And you want contiguous, you want that left on. Okay, now when you go ahead and tap, you'll see that you can go ahead and choose any color you want, and it will go ahead and it will work just fine. Okay, so that's it for setup. The only other thing that I can share with you for general setup is you're going to want some kind of layer system. Okay, so the layer system, you'll notice that your layers are over here on the right, and generally you want to name your layers, and the way you name your layers is you double tap or you double click, and then you type in what it's going to be. So for instance, real quickly, if I was going to draw in some grass over here, some bladed grass, and I was going to do a little grass patch here. And now I could take my paint bucket and just fill it in there. Okay, so if that was my finished one there, I would come over here, double tap, and I would go ahead and call this grass. Last thing for this video tutorial is I'm going to show you the proper way to save, and that is File, Save. Your screen is going to look like this. You'll most likely want to save it as, there are 2 file formats that you would want to save as. One is a PSD or Photoshop document. The second is a PNG. So the first save should always be a PSD. So I'm going to go ahead and call this, let's see, we'll call this Platformer Tileset. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. You could also save it to a more specific folder. And I'm going to save the format as Photoshop. You can also click on this little downward arrow here, and you can be more specific and choose exactly where you want to save your documents. And then you would go ahead and hit save. Then when you are all done with all of your tile sets and you're ready to bring this over into Stencil or any other program for that matter, you come back up to File, you choose Save As. You would then probably save it in the exact same location, probably give it a similar name, although you could add in something like you could add in the word final, or you could put a number in there like the number 2, and you're going to change the format, and you are going to choose PNG, PNG, and that's going to allow you to have this transparency behind it. Hit save, hit OK, and you're good to go. But you always, always, always want to save your PSD versions, otherwise you will not be able to come back and edit and manipulate and delete your layers. Okay, so good luck and have fun.